Alright, so in this video I'm going to go over the site file for Spring 21. And this site file is broken down logically quite similarly to last semester, where we have sort of a far context, a near context, and then the immediate site itself. The site is this little dot, or this little box here, this red dot, box. It's 250 feet by 250 feet. And it's based on an area of Tokyo. If we take a look at Tokyo, there's a couple reasons why I chose this location. Tokyo itself, as a prefecture, here you can see the outline, is not the most populated city in the world. It is very, very close, and if you take the prefecture, the megalopolis, the sort of metropolitan area, it is the most populated area in the world, with about 33 million people. Which is kind of insane to think about that, you know, on island, Pacific Ocean, and Tokyo Bay, the population of 1/10 of the United States lives here. It is a sprawling metropolis, and because the studio this year is focused on growing up, right, like a neighborhood in the sky, Tokyo is very inclined to grow up because of its density. So we're actually based about right here. And keep in mind, you might not actually be in Tokyo, but we're taking sort of the urban fabric and the idea that there is a train station up here. We've sort of relocated the direction of the site as well. But we're sort of nestled where this skyscraper currently is. Now this skyscraper has gone up in the last year, so that's why we're thinking this could be, you know, a potential place for something up to about 700 feet, residential mixed use. But anyways, this is the site itself, 250 feet by 250 feet. To the north there is a large train station. This is actually Tokyo Station. It's the center of town. Tokyo has a few centers of town. You can see these sort of urban hubs. But to the north there's also a park, and to the south we're getting to the bay. So there's a couple canals here and a river, and this gets to the bay with some parks down here as well. So this is where we're at. Let me go to the Rhino file itself. Let's take a look at a perspective or an ISO view. We are here, so normally there would be a skyscraper, but this is fairly densely populated, and then it goes to this sort of urban, you know, sort of fabric. And again, this is where the bay would be. This is the train station, and then up here there's a park as well. In terms of the actual file layers in Rhino, we're going to be dealing with this again. I'll have another tutorial that will cover bringing this into Revit. But essentially, you don't have to focus on these layers right now, but I've broken it down to the far site, the near site, and the lot itself. So the far site is locked, the near site is locked, and the lot is actually locked as well. But if I turn the far site off, you can see that it just clips to this smaller square. And this is probably how you're going to be working most of the time. But sometimes for renderings, it's nice to have this you know, in mind, or if you take a section through the site, you can see the sort of very dense urban fabric here. And let's go ahead and look at the near site. So here I can turn the ground off, I can turn the curbs off, and I can turn the buildings off. But let's just go ahead and turn the whole near site off. And because we're going to be working below ground this semester, I've broken the lot up into a few different things as well. So the lot itself is broken into the ground, and this goes, I think, 200 to 300 feet in the ground. So you'll have to replace this with your own. So whoever's dealing with, I think the crown is going to be dealing with this as well. And you're going to have to infill this, essentially. But it's also broken up into the curb, and then you have a line for the setbacks. So this red region is essentially where you can build in, and it's 250 by 250, but keep in mind if you have overhangs and louvers and stuff, then you're going to have to maybe consider your build area to about 230 by 230, so 10 feet off of either side. And that is essentially the site. I have one more thing for you, and that's the envelope. This goes up to 700 feet. And this shows you essentially the entire building envelope. Now we don't have any setback or sight lines here, so we might add that later. As you might know from your research, there are certain light corridors that are, have to be taken into account in certain cities, which means that if there are buildings here and the sun is coming around this way, it might need to chop off a little bit on the envelope so that you can get light into this building. Now I've just extruded this envelope up because it's sort of an easier concept to deal with, and this is essentially the entire building envelope that you're allowed to build in. So that's the site, and I'm going to go into how you deal with the site in your own file, because we're going to be dealing with what are called work session files, and that will be the next tutorial.